Shmois, second book, the book Shmois, Exodus, chapter 1, verse 18. We concluded yesterday that the Hebrew midwives were commanded to, heaven forfend, get rid of the males that are born. Of course, they didn't listen. And we continue with this story. Verse 18. Vayikra melech Mitzrayim. And he summoned the king of Egypt and Meyaldes to the midwives. Excuse me. And he said to them, Madua, why, Asisam, have you done Hadavar Hazeh, this thing? That you keep alive the boys. Why are you doing that? Boy, he's really delusional, huh? Thinks a Jewish mother is not going to take care of a Jewish child, like. Now we understand why he's in denial. Now we understand. All right. That's exactly. Excuse me. And they said, Hamiyaldes, the midwives, El Para to Para. Ki like Hanashim Hamitzriyas Ha'ivreis. So they with a little wisdom they answered. Not then the women are not like the Egyptian women. They're not like them. Ki chayis heina. They are chayis. They are they're like they themselves are midwives, or they themselves are chayis. In other words,
they're like animals.
Well, chayis means literally means like animals. What does an animal do? Gives birth by themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying. In other words, they're giving birth without them, on their own, right? And if they had before we come to them, that before we come to them as midwives, they've already given birth. Rashi in 19, huh?
The word is hamitzvit or hamitzvit? Ivris or Ivriot?
Ha-Ivriyos.
Ivriot.
Yeah.
Even though there's no vav, right?
Huh?
Even though there's no vav.
There's a chaylam.
Chaylam on the yud.
Yeah.
Olam chasir.
For they are midwives. The women of Israel, they're expert midwives at delivering babies. Uncle translates it as midwives. The Rabbeinu Darsha. So that's how, the simple meaning. And our sages, they interpret this to mean the Israelite women, they're compared to beasts in the field. They don't need midwives. And where are they compared to beasts? Before the death of Yaakov and Moshe, each blessed the individual tribes. Among them, he blessed Gur Aryeh, a lion cub, is Yehuda, is the Avitra, Binyamin is a wolf that devours his prey, Yosef is a firstborn ox, Shalucha, Naphtali is a gazelle that is quick. And those of the tribes that doesn't have a metaphor of an animal, but as we learned last week, if you recall, the verse at the end, Yaakov comes to bless them all. In other words, with all of the same blessings, so they all have the same qualities.
Rabbi, I'm sorry, I don't see Rashi on the screen.
You don't see what?
I don't see the screen with Rashi on it.
No.
I don't see Chumash.
Okay, hold on. Did I not share it? Oh, maybe I didn't share it. I'm sorry. I didn't share it. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
don't know why I didn't share it. Sorry. Thank you. Don't be so patient next time. Further it says, what is your mother, a lioness? Okay. Anyway, so according to Midrash, they're like they're all compared to animals, meaning actually doesn't even explain what that means.
That they give birth before they come.
Yeah, the first explanation is they themselves are expert midwives, so they are midwives for themselves. So we're not acting as midwives. That's the first, The second explanation is they are compared to animals, to beasts of the field. And we see that that's how they've been blessed by Yaakov, and later on also by Moshe. That will also happen. And Rashi doesn't. I mean, the sages, it doesn't say what that means. That checks that they don't need midwives, right? Except they don't need midwives. Okay.
I think he's bringing it as a proof from the blessing of Yaakov that the wife of, Gur Aryeh, it's Yehuda. So the wife is like a lioness.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, 20. Vayita Elohim, and God did good, the Yaldas, to the midwives. The Yareb Am, the Atzmamoid, and the people increased and they became very strong. Rashi 20. Vayitav, God did good. Hativ lahem. He did good to them. Zechiluk b'teva sheyesoided b'shteit oisies. There's a distinctive word over here whose root is composed of two letters. Benita la vav yud b'reisha. And a yud and a vav is given in the beginning. In other words, the word toiv is two letters. Tes vav, tav. Keshuhu ba ledaber b'lashon v'yifal. So this is grammar over here. When it comes to speak about a third person singular past tense, so it's got the prefix of a vav. And a yud that vowelized with its seirei. Shehu comments cotton. Ibesegol shehu patach cotton. Kigoy v'yitav elukim lemyaldes. That God is good to the midwives. V'yerev bebeis Yehuda. And he increased in the daughter of Yehuda, which means hirba sa'aniya, increase their mourning. That's over there. It's bringing a different example. It is in Zardon.
Excellent.
Okay. Just seeing if there's something more here, which I don't see.
It's all grammar.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to the next Rashi. Next Rashi, by Yeti Velakimli Mealdis, God did good to the midwives. Mahu Atayva, what was the good that he did? That's the next verse. Introduction to the next verse. 21. Vayehi, and it was Kiyoro Hamiyaldes, because the Miyaldes, the midwives, they feared Es Elikim, God. V'yaslehem batim, God made for them houses. Rashi in 21, V'yaslehem batim, he made for them houses. Bati kuona v'levia malchus. So Rashi explains it doesn't mean literally houses, because how would God make a house? How would he do that exactly, right? So he made houses in Israel. In other words, a house of priesthood, of the Levites, and of royalty. That's what he did. Shikruyim batim, that they're called houses. Kamishakosov, as the verse says, but even as Beis Hashem, as Beis HaMelech, as it says in Malachim, that he built a house of Hashem and the house of the king. So remember, Shifra, who's Shifra? Yocheved, right? The mother of Moshe, right? So from her, from Yocheved comes Kahuna, and the Levites, they come from Yocheved, which is Aaron the Kohen, and Moshe is the Levite. Well, Malchus Miriam, and royalty comes from Miriam. She's an ancestor of King David, Kedisa b'Masechta Soita. As when we look in the Tractate of Soita, you'll see that she is the mother of, or great grandmother of King David. Don't ask me the connection. You have to look in the Talmud.
She was poor.
She was Pua, exactly. Okay. Verse 22. Yitav Parai, and he commanded Parai lechol amoi, to all of his people, Lamor, saying, Kol aben hayulad, any son that is born, hayaora tashlichuhu, to the river, he shall be thrown. They shall be thrown. Lechol abas techayun, and all of the daughters, they should be kept alive. Right? We already had that yesterday, but now who's he saying this to? To all of the people. Before it was just to the midwives that he commanded. Now he's commanding this to all of the nation.
More make live, right? Just stay alive. Make live. The chayun.
To keep, well, to keep alive. We'll see what Rashi has to say. I mean, the Chassidus is one thing and Rashi is another thing, right? To all of his people, Afaleim Gazar. Look what Rashi's saying over here. Rashi's saying that he decreed on the Egyptian people too. Any newborn male infant that was Egyptian, not just an Ivri, not just a Hebrew, was also to be cast into the Nile. Yom Shanei Moshe, on the day that Moshe was born, Amro Loi Itztanignov, his astrologer said to Pharaoh, Hayom Nele Mashiach, today the savior of the Jewish people is born. And we don't know if he's born from an Egyptian mother or from an Israelite. But we do see his destiny. He's going to be stricken by water. His downfall will be water. That's why Pharaoh, that day, he made a decree, also on the Egyptians, the newborn male infants, that they should be cast into the Nile. Right? Shenemar, and that's what it means at the end of the verse. Kol haben hayuloid. Every son that's born should be cast into the Nile, right? It doesn't say all of the Hebrew children, boys that are born, right? It doesn't say that. It's not definitive, right? Why? Because again, didn't know who the Savior is going to come from. But Pharaoh's astrologers, they did not know, in their vision, they were correct, by the way. They had a vision, they were correct. Yeah. Because in the end, Sefer Lilkos Meriva, his destined to be stricken by the waters of Meriva, right? Because when he hit the rock, rather than talking to the rock, that was his downfall. That's when he couldn't go into the land of Israel, and he would die outside of Israel, right? But that they didn't know.
They probably blame the Jews that their babies are dead.
Oh, for sure. It's front page. You didn't know that?
It's all our
in the Egyptian times, you know.
It's always
Right.
our fault.
Would this law apply even to
Huh?
Pharaoh's? Would this law apply even to Pharaoh's household as well too? The males.
I mean, said all of Egypt. You know, I would imagine it applied it, right? Remember, it was on that day. We're not talking about it wasn't for a month, it wasn't for a year, it was for that day.
But that particular
On that day, because the astrologer said, hey, he's being born now,
okay.
right? We see. Now we're going to see the birth of Moshe is coming right now. Okay, chapter 2, verse number 1. And he went, a man from the house of Levi. V'yikach es bas Levi, and he took the daughter of Levi. Oh, okay, what's going on over here? V'yikach es bas Levi, and he took a daughter of Levi. Perush haya mimeno mipnei gzeres parei. So Rashi explains interestingly over here that he separated because of the decree of Farai. And he remarried her. And that's what it means. What do you mean vayelach? And he went. What do you mean he went? Like as if he was going to a place, right? It's superfluous. Ish mi beis Levi, lakach bas Levi. A man from the house of Levi took a daughter of Levi. Why do you say he went? What do you mean he went? Because he went back. He went back to take his wife that he separated from her because of the decree of Pharaoh, right? That all of the boys would be thrown into the Nile. So he separated from her, right? And a man went. Why Vayelahu? So why did he go? What prompted him now to go? The decree is even stronger now, right? It's not lesser. So what prompted him? Because he went because of the advice of his daughter. Who's his daughter is Miriam, right? That she said to him, your decree is even more severe than Pharaoh. In other words, you're doing worse than Pharaoh, right? That you're separated from your wife. Pharaoh, he only decreed against the newborn males, but you're decreeing against the females as well. In other words, you're going to have relations with your wife and have children, so you're not even going to have girls. There's no decree against the girls. So you're even worse than Pharaoh. The daughter says to her, I mean, I don't say worse than Pharaoh, but your decree is worse. In response to this criticism of his daughter, he took back his wife, and he did a second marriage with her. And she too then was transformed to become a young woman.
Wow. She was older than Sarah.
Well, think about it for a moment. When was she born? Yocheved. Ben Achaimes, between the walls as they went into Egypt, right? So that's when she was born. When he left Egypt, Moshe was 80 years old. That means he was given that, and that's 210 years. 210 minus 80, 130. So she wasn't young.
Wow.
Right? So V'yikach, okay. She says so, she was 130 years at the time when Moshe was born. Because she was born between the walls at the border when the Israelites they arrived at Egypt. And there were 210 years in total in Egypt. Because when you take away the 80 years of Moshe Rabbeinu, when she conceived Moshe, she was 130 years old. And this is why Torah calls her the daughter of Levi. Otherwise, she's still young, daughter of Levi. 130 years old, after so many years, you're kind of your own person. Why are you called the daughter of Levi? To bring out that her youthfulness came back in the second marriage, right? Because he took her back. Wow. Amazing. Got it? Okay.
Got it.
I'm not clear how Rashi gets from here that Miriam rebuked him, except from the word vayelech, because he went. Being that that's superfluous, so, but why does it have to be that it was someone else that, rebuked him to make him go? He went on his own. He realized whatever. I mean, I guess that itself is a question. Like, where would he come all of a sudden when the decree is even stronger? Then now he should go and take her back. So I guess the logic of it is he had to be inspired by somebody.
She was prophetess.
Yeah, but that's not explaining how Rashi knows this.
Oh.
That's the question. Like, why is it? What's the proof that it was her? Right? In other words, the fact that the Midrash says it, that's not a question about the validity of it. The question is, how do you learn it in the simple context of the verse? That's how we have to understand things, right? Not independent of the verse. Behind. Okay.
Rashi does not rely on Midrash to come to a conclusion. He relies.
Well, the
basically
Midrash
on
has to
context.
fit into the simple meaning of the text. He's not relying on it as an end in itself, right? Because then that would be Midrash teaching. That would not be simple text teaching,
Mhm.
right?
Only
So
to confirm.
the Midrash is only, if he brings a Midrash, is because it fits in with the simple meaning, or in the simple meaning, there's a difficulty that we need a little more of an understanding because there's a difficulty in the simple understanding, right? But in either case, it has to have some it has to have some opening in the simple meaning of the text. It can't just be because the Midrash says it, right? Okay, verse number 2. The Tahar, and she conceived, Taisha the woman, laid Ben, and she gave birth to a Ben. And she saw him, Kitoifu, that he was good. V'titzbenehu, and she hid him, Shleisha Yarachim, 3 months. Okay, this was yesterday's Torah studies. This on this verse over here. Kitoifu, that he was good. What does that mean? Rashi says that the house when he was born was full of light. Full of light. How do we know that? Because it's Kitoiv. Where else does it say Kitoiv? In creation. When God said Kitoiv, he said that it was good. In other words, that creation was full of whatever the good was. Right? Creation was full. So here, what does it mean? His birth means his home was full of his light.
Circumcised.
Rashi does not say that. And that's not what the Sikha says either.
That's how she knew that.
Yeah, but again, we're learning Chumash Rashi.
Yeah.
Remember, we're learning Chumash Rashi, and we bring that in. I have to just make the comment on it that Rashi doesn't say it, so then it can't be that this is what the simple meaning of the text is. Otherwise, Rashi would say that that's what it means, and the Rebbe learns differently that it means he was an embodiment of Torah from the first moment. What is or is not circumcision. Or is Torah or, the light of Torah. He was the embodiment of it from, right, as a man of truth, as we learned yesterday, unbelievable sicha in Torah studies, that he's the embodiment of it, and therefore, since he's the embodiment of truth of Torah, he's embodying it from the moment he's born.
That's what I also read in the Siddur, that what it says. I think it's by your light we see the light. It means by the light of his face, God's face, we understand Torah, the light
Right.
of Torah.
Yeah. Okay, verse number 3. And she was no longer or she was not able, oid, further, hatzvinu, to hide him, v'tikach loy, and she took him, tevas goima, she took a reed basket. Teva is a basket, and goima is reeds. V'tachmara, and she smeared it b'chemar, with clay, or b'zephis, and with tar, v'tosim ba, and she placed es hayeled, the child, v'tosim b'suf, and placed him on the reeds, al sfas hayor, on the bank of the river. Rashi, number 3. Wow, so much over here. She was no longer able to hide him. Why? Remember, she was pregnant. Did the Egyptians know she was pregnant? Absolutely. You saw her, right? So they knew she was pregnant. They were monitoring all the pregnant women, right? So for the Egyptians counted her term, the day that Amram took her back, right? So they counted from there 9 months from that day. But she gave birth to him prematurely, 6 months and a day. For a woman who gives birth to 7 months, fetus, right, prematurely. And prematurely, but they only checked after 9 months, right? So they missed, right? So that's why she could no longer hide them. Read Gemi Lashon Mishnah. The word Gemi is the language of the Mishnah, Balaz, in Old French, Yonk. Dover Rachu, it's a flexible thing. It withstands both soft and hard collisions. Zephis with clay and with tar. The tar was on the outside and the plaster was on the inside. Why? That tzaddik, Moshe. So how's Moshe a tzaddik? How's he a tzaddik? What did he do to be a tzaddik? That's why, how's he a tzaddik? Because he was born with a light. That he illuminated the entire home, because Torah was, his body was not was transparent to his soul. And therefore the house was full of light, the light of his neshama, the light of his connection to Torah, and therefore he's a tzaddik. That tzaddik should not smell from a foul odor of the tar. So the tar was on the outside of the basket because that water should not penetrate. The Tasim Basuf, and she placed him in the reeds, Hulosh and Agam, that means in the swamp land that's full of reeds, of thin reeds. In Old French, Roselle. The Daimalai, and this word is compared to the verse Vikana Basuv Kamelu, a verse in Isaiah, reeds and willow shoots wither. Okay. Verse number 4. And she stood his sister from a distance, Leda, to know what would happen to him. No Rashi, right? His sister is, of course, it's Miriam, right? And she went down, the daughter of Parai, to wash in the river. And her maidens, they walked along the river. And she saw the basket inside of the reeds of and she sent her maidservant. Amasa is her maidservant, and she took it. Rashi, number 5.
Who was the midwife? They were the midwife. Now that she's giving birth, who was the midwife for her?
I mean, she gave birth already 3 months earlier. What do you mean?
No, because she was the midwife for all the other babies. Yocheved
Oh,
herself.
oh, I don't know. Good question. Okay, number 5. Lirchotz is a yar, to bathe in the river. So that can be cannot be taken literal. Sares hamikra ufashehu. You should invert the verse and explain it as if it reads, "Vatered bas paro alayor lirchotz by." The daughter Para went down to the river to bathe in it.
What's
Seems like a same thing.
Vatered bas paro lirchotz. Okay. Not exactly clear what the big difference is. Okay. Al Yadayor, along the river, Eitel Yor, next to the river, Kamai, as Ru'u Chelkas Yoyav al Yadi. See the portion of Yoyav next to me. V'hu Yad Mamish, and this is the literal sense of the word hand. Sheyad Adam Smucha Loy, that the hand of the person is next to him. So yeah, it's on the hand of the river, means next to the river. Rabbi Sena Darshu, but our sages, they expound holchais, right? That they went, right? Going. Lashon misa is an expression of death. As the verse says, I'm going to die. So according to, they interpreted this, holchais lamus lefish machu bo, that the handmaidens of the daughter of Parai were going to die because they objected to her regarding saving Moshe. Hakosim Messiah. And the verse supports this interpretation. Ki lama lanu, for what's the purpose does the verse come and say, that the maidservants were going? So according to the Medrash, right, that Rashi says the simple meaning of the verse supports this understanding, is that they were going to die. But what does it mean they're going to die? Meaning, they wanted the boy to die. They objected. Why are you saving this this child? Why are you saving it? They should go to die. Right? They objected to her, to daughter of Parai, to save the child. Right? That's what it means. Holchais. Holchais, they're going. Rashi's bothered. Why is the verse have to tell us that the maidens that they went? What is that telling us? What's that teaching me? What's that saying? They're going to die. In other words, they were arguing with her not to save the child. That this child should die.
So what happens? They're going to die. They wanted the child to die, but they are alive. I see the link. If it says they wanted the child to die, fine. But you know what Rashi's implying there, what I understand that they ladies and I'm not seeing that connection at all.
So I'm not, you know what, I'm not certain, but the way, I mean, I guess because they objected.
Maybe because they're going to face the king's edict, so they're going to die.
Either that or God will, take care of them because they are wanting that the child should die, so therefore they're going to die. I don't know. We'd have to look where it says in the Medrash to get more clarity. But they were going to die because of their objection. How that would play out, Rashi doesn't say. Because that's not part of the point Rashi wants to bring out, that the fact that the maidens were going, who cares? Like, why is the verse telling us that? It's superfluous. So Rashi is saying our sages learn on from that because they objected. So they were going to their death. As the phrase is used, holchim lomus, going to die. Right? On the way to die. That's the opening for the sages on that. Okay. Next Rashi, es amasa. So here, literal, what does it mean? Her maidservant, right? Es shivchasa, or the maidservant. Rabbi Seinu Darshan Yad, but our sages, they expound that the word amasa means arm. However, according to the grammar of the Holy Tongue, if this were the meaning, amasa, mem, gusha. It should be a mem with a dot in it, an aleph patach instead of aleph patach. The Haim Darshu is masa is yada, but the sages expounded the word amasa to mean her arm. That according to this, her forearm became very lengthy, many cubits, to enable her to draw the basket out of the river. So, it's a famous thing that we know that her arm became very long, right? And she was able to reach to the basket to take it out of the river. So Rashi's bringing this explanation, but he's bothered by it, that it's not the proper grammatic understanding of the word. Okay, interesting. Verse number 6. Okay, we got a truck over here. We can finish.
See that
But
they use
Tifta.
that as a measurement, amma.
Yeah, but that's not a Hebrew
That's
term.
amma, hers.
Right. Yeah. Verse number 6, they opened up and they saw the boy. The youth is crying, and she had pity upon him, and she said, that this one is a Hebrew boy. Ooh, trouble, huh? Okay, let's see Rashi. Who they opened up and they saw him as Mirasa. They say, who was it that saw the boy? This is a simple meaning. Now, that they saw the boy. The midrashic explanation should also Ima Shechina. They saw the Shechina with Moshe. Wow. And behold, he's crying. Caleb ben Kenar, that his voice is that of a youth. In other words, Nar is an adolescent. Yeled is a child. It doesn't say child because his voice was that of an adolescent. Very interesting. With that, then we can understand also why the Shechina, right, according to the Midrash, that the Shechina, the divine presence, was with him. It wasn't a child. He was 3 months, but already had some maturity of an adolescent. What that means, I don't know exactly. Okay, verse number 7. And she said, El Bas Parai, and she said his sister said, El Bas Parai, to the daughter of Parai, Ha'elech, should I go? Bekarasi loch isha, and should I call a woman, Meinekes mina ivrios, who is a wet nurse from the Hebrew women, Betzenik loch, and who will nurse as a yelad, nurse the child, this boy. Number 7, mina ivrios, a Hebrew woman. So Miriam is saying this, right? This teaches this teaches us that Pharaoh's daughter had taken Moshe around to many Egyptian women to nurse him, but he would not be nursed by them. Why? Because in the future he was destined to speak with the Shekhinah. So he could not be nursed by a non-Jewish, by an Egyptian. Tamer la bas Parai. So she responded to her, the daughter of Para, L'chi, go. B'telech. Alma. And she went, the girl, B'tikra is Aim Hayeled, and she called the mother of the child. Rashi in the Brevetele Alma, the young girl went, Holcha Jesus the Almus, and she went with agility and vigor, Ke'elam, like a youth. Right, so that's the term, meaning like she went with great vigor.
Would it be considered like non-kosher? Egyptian woman?
Yes.
Would be considered.
Yeah. Non-kosher because the Shekhinah is going to speak with him. God's going to be with him, so it's not possible. Remember, he's truth. Truth cannot have anything to do with anything that's a lie. That's not whole complete. Number 9.
Tanya.
The Tamer, in a moment, we're going to finish off here. The Tamer la bas Parai. She said to her, the daughter of Parai, Halech in is a yelad hazev. So Parai's daughter said to her, take this boy and nurse him. Nurse him for me. And I will give you your reward. There's a paid job. So she took the boy and nursed him. Rashi, number 9, take. But she prophesied and she didn't realize what she prophesied by saying, hey, Shalich, here it is, which is yours. She's taking back her child, that's hers, right? Verse number 10, the last verse, and the boy grew up. And she brought him to the daughter of Parai. She brought him to the daughter of Parai, and he was to her as a son. And she called his name Moshe. And she said, because I drew him from the water. Rashi, Mishisiu, I drew him, Kitarguma is Unkelis translate, Shalachti. I took him out. Hu Lashon Yitzal B'Lashon Rami. This word in Aramaic is taking out. Kishachal Benisa Bechelba, as one who takes a strand of hair out of milk. She says, I removed him. Kamoi, lo yamush, shall not be removed, lo mashu. And this is how Menachem also explains about it. So that's what the Targum is saying, right? That it means that I took him out, like taking a strand of hair out of the milk, right? So I took him out of the river in such a manner, right? But I say that it should not be the same mush and yamush. Mishisihu. Mush. Okay. In other words, taking out Cain, Rabim. They took me out from many waters. Beris mush, as if it was under the word of mush, as Menachem has it, lo yitaken lema mishisihu, you wouldn't make it into the form of root of Moshe, ele hamishisihu. Yeah, okay. Again, some grammar that I don't understand. Alternatively, that's it, folks. Sorry.
For a 5-year-old, I would have asked